Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 65 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're learning how to think like an engineer using the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons, and in this class, we will be using the Sunfounder Elite Explorer Kit. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon, and you can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot easier if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to show you today. Now, in the last few lessons, even though this is a class on Arduino, what we want to start learning how to do is use the Wi-Fi capability on the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. Well, if we're going to use Wi-Fi, we have to connect to something. So what we're going to do is we are going to connect the Arduino Uno to our desktop computer over Wi-Fi. And on the desktop computer, we're going to be running Python programs. The Python program is going to be getting data from the Arduino, and the Python program is going to be sending instructions or commands to the Arduino. So we're going to set up a simple client-server type relationship between our Arduino and our desktop. Well, if we're going to do that, you've got to know a little bit about Python. So last week, in one lesson, I showed you the essentials of Python, and we sort of went through variables, conditionals, compound conditionals, while loops, for loops. We went through all of that type of thing. And then I gave you a homework assignment just to sort of get you comfortable with writing programs in Python. And what that homework assignment was to write a program that would average grades in Python. So I must ask at this point, how many of you were successful? If you were successful, leave a comment down below. I am legend, double chest bump. And if you were not successful, leave a comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Now, hopefully most of you guys were successful because you already know pretty well how to program in Arduino. You're pretty adept at programming in the C-type language that's on Arduino. And then really with Python, the things that's different is just the syntax. You know, how do you do a for loop? How do you do a while loop? How do you do conditionals? The syntax is different, but the fundamentals are pretty much the same. So hopefully you guys were mostly able to do it. I'm going to jump in today and I will have a sip of coffee and I will show you kind of a simple solution the way I did it. Well, if we are going to input grades, we're going to need to put those grades in an array. And so I will create an empty array, which is just grades. The array is equal to open and close, so it's completely empty. Now, I need to know how many grades do you have, because each user each time is going to have a different number of grades. So I'm going to get that from the user. I'm going to say num grades is equal to input how many grades do you have? Question mark, space, close the quote, close the input. Now, what's the problem with this? If I put 5, it's going to input 5, but it's going to input 5 as a what? As a string, as a character. So I need to take the int of that. Now, why int? Because you're always going to have a round number of grades. You'll have 5 grades, 6 grades, 7 grades, but you won't have 7.4 grades. Okay, so that's going to be an integer. Now we need to go out and we need to get those grades. So I'm going to say for I in range We're going to start at 0 because our array is indexed to 0, so the first grade will go into the 0 position. So we're going to go from 0 to num grades, and then we're going to jump 1 at a time. And remember that if I start at 0, I will want to stop 1 before num grades, but with this range function, we will stop 1 before the number that we put in here. So through this strange, awkward magic, everything seems to work out. So now I need to get the grade. So I'm going to say I'm going to get the grade, and that is going to be input. Okay, and then I'm going to say enter your, and then I want to say, instead of just enter your grade, enter your grade, enter your grade, I want to say sort of like enter your first grade, your second grade, your third grade, your fourth grade. So I'm going to close the string, and then I'm going to concatenate that with the string value of I plus 1. Now, why do I do the string value of I plus 1? Because when I'm asking a human for their first grade, I want to ask them for the 1 grade. I want to think like a human. I don't want to ask them, please enter your 0 grade. That wouldn't make sense. So enter the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grades. The first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade is kind of what I'm trying to evoke. So this prompt will change each time, and then I'm going to concatenate that with the string grade. Okay, and I probably need a space in there. And then I'm going to put a colon and a space, close that string, and close the input. Now, what's the problem? It's going to be entering those grades as strings, so I'm going to take the float of that. Why float? Because some teachers might give a 98.5. You might have the in-between numbers on a grade, so we're going to go ahead and make that a float. So grade is equal to float of input of that prompt. Now I have the individual grade. I need to put the grade in the array, and so then I will say grades.append. I'm going to append to the array grades. I'm going to append the number grade. Now notice when you do this append, you use parentheses because it's a function call, but when you're indexing the array, you use square brackets, and it's easy to kind of forget and use the wrong ones. And so just be very mindful about the difference and the different times you use parentheses versus when you use the square brackets. Okay, so we've got that appended. Now let's go ahead and let's print just a blank line. So I'll just put a space like that. Now let's give the grades back to the person. So print your grades are space, close the string and close the print. And now I'm going to do another for loop for I in range, again from 0 to num grades, jump 1 at a time. And then what do I want to do? Print grades plural of I, not of 1, of I, like that. Okay. Now let's just run this to see if this works so far. Let's get our errors out of the way here. How many grades do you have? I have 4. I have, you see, enter your 1 grade. That's an 80, a 90, a 70, and an 85. And then it says your grades are 80, 90, 70, 85. That looks pretty good. Looks like that works. Now what we want to do is we want to average the grades. So how do you average grades? How do you average anything? You add all the numbers up, and then you divide by the number of numbers. So I want to sum up all those numbers that are in grades. And the easiest way to do that is to say, I'm just going to have a bucket that I'm going to add all those numbers to, and that bucket is going to start out empty at a 0. So then I'm going to say for I in range, I'm going to step through the entire array with 0, num grades 1, like that, okay? And then I'm going to say bucket is equal to bucket plus grades of I. Does that look good? Okay, so now I have the sum, but now the grade average is going to be equal to the bucket divided by the number of grades, like that. Now I'm going to print your average is colon space close the string comma grade average the variable. Could it really be that easy? How many mistakes did I make? Let's see. Okay, how many grades do I have? 4. And then I'm going to do 93, 94, 96, 97, and boom. 93, 94, 96, 97, and the average is 95. When I'm testing an average program, I like to pick a number. Like I picked the number that I wanted the average to be 95, and then you notice I did one number above 95, one number below 95 by 1, one number 2 below 95, one number 2 above 95, and therefore I knew the right answer should be the most excellent grade of 95. Okay, so that's pretty good. I think what we could do is we could come in here and just make it a little bit more interesting with some conditionals, just to practice our conditionals. And what I could say is I could say if the grade av is less than, if the grade av is less than 70, or let's say less than 60, then what I would do is you have made a D in the class. Like that, okay? And then if, let's say the grade is less than 50, if the grade is less than 50, then what we could say is you have failed the class. Like that. Okay, now what we can do is, what if your grade average is greater than, if it's less than 60, if it's less than 60, you have failed the class. I'm not thinking right. Failed the class. If your grade is less than 70 and, let's see, if it's less than 70 and grade average is greater than or equal to 60, then you have made a D in the class. Okay, so less than 60 is an F. If it's less than 70 but greater than or equal to 60, then you have made a D in the class. And let me grab this line because this one's probably closer to what I want. Now, if you have less than an 80 but greater than or equal to a 70, then you have made a C in the class. All right. And then we're going to take both of these here. We'll get there pretty soon. If you're less than a 90 but greater than or equal to an 80, then you have a B in the class. And then finally, if you have less than, if you have, at this point, if you have less than, You see, some people do goofy things like give you bonus points and you could have an average above 100. But what I'm just going to say here then is that if you have a grade that is greater or equal to 90, then you have made an A in the class. And then maybe we should add a congratulations, like that. Okay, now let's run this and let's see what happens. Whoa, what was that? In line 23. Oh, I said that twice. That's not good. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, so let's try this again. 90, 91. Ah, I don't want 91 grades. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's do 4 grades. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an 80. And then we're going to do a 90. Okay, and then we are going to do an 84, and then we're going to do an 86, and then look at that. Your grades are 80, 90, 84, 86. Your average is 85. You've made a B in the class. Okay, pretty good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you a homework assignment, and what that homework assignment now is to add to this before you print the grades out up here, before you print the grades out, I want you to sort the grades from the highest grade to the lowest grade. So instead of printing out 80, 90, 84, 86, instead of printing out 80, 90, 84, 86, what you would do is you would put them in order and say 90, 86, 84, 80. You would put them in order, all right? You would sort them. Now, you have to write the code to do the sorting. Don't go out and use the Python function of sort or ordered array or, those functions that already exist out there. You go through the thinking and you do that homework. Now, instead of doing a separate video because we need to keep moving on, you pause this video here. You do your homework solution, and then you can come back to this video, and then you can see my solution, which I'm going to add right in here just as we move forward. So freeze. Welcome back. Let me show you my solution for finding the sorted list. Okay, so what I am going to do is up here, right up here. Where am I? Okay, so I entered the grades, and then when I say your grades are, before I do that, I am going to sort it. So I'm going to say for I in range, okay, for I in range, and I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go to num grades minus 1, and I'm going to go one at a time. Why num grades minus 1? I will show you in just a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to say is if grades of I, that's the present. If grades of I, that's the present grade, if grades of I is less than the next grade, which would be grades of I plus 1, if that is the case, if the next grade is greater than the present grade, what do I need to do? I need to switch the grades, okay? I need to switch the grades. And so what would I do? I've got to put grades of I plus 1 somewhere, so I'm going to say temp is equal to grades of I plus 1. Temp is equal to grades of I plus 1. That looks good. Temp is equal to grades of I plus 1, and then grades of I plus 1 is equal to grades of I, like that. And now I've got to go in and say grades of I is equal to temp. So what did I just do? I just swapped them. All right. Now what I need to do is I've got to go all the way through the list. I've got to go all the way through the list, and I have to make those swaps. So let's just run this and see if it works, and then we'll come back and see what other things that we need to do. So now let's just go ahead and run this. And to make it hard, I'm going to put them in absolutely backwards order. So I'm going to say I have 5 grades, and it's going to be 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And then what does it do? It has 81, 82, 83, 84, 80, and then it says your average is 82. So did we make any progress at all? I'm not sure that we made any progress at all. Yes, we did. We got the 80 all the way to the bottom. So the 80 was at the top, and then the 80 goes all the way to the bottom. So how many times have we done this? 1. How many more times do we need to do it? Well, I need to do the same thing with this one. Okay, that'll be 2. And then with this one, that'll be 3. And then with this one, that'll be 4. So I need to do it a total of 4 times. Why do I not have to do it 5 times? Because if I take care of getting 1, 2, 3, 4 in order, then by definition, the 5th one has to be in order. So what we want to do is we want to do this whole thing again, okay? We need to do this whole thing again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for j in range, okay, and then 0. And then that time I did num grades minus 1. This time I need to do num grades minus 2 because, right, for 5, we don't have to loop through 5 times. We only have to loop through 4 times. I think I'm thinking about that right, but we'll run it to see what it does, okay? And then I am going to tab, 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 tab. Okay, now don't worry, we're not actually using the J. We're not actually using that J as an index anywhere because it's just I want to do this thing. If I have 5 grades, I need to do this sort 4 times, which would be num grades. Maybe, I think this maybe needs to be num grades minus 1. Okay, because this isn't indexing. Yeah, maybe it's num grades minus 2. Yes, it will be num grades minus 2. I think it will be. Okay, so let's run this thing. How many grades do you have? 5. And I'm going to put them in backwards order. 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and then look at that. 83, 84, 82, 81, 80. And so in fact, I needed to go the full 4 times there. Okay, so 5, num grades is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. And so I need to go through this thing. I need to go through this thing 4 times. So let's try this again. All right. So how many grades do I have? I've got 5. And then the first grade is 80. And then 81, 82, 83, 84. And then look at that. 84, 83, 82, 81, 80, and my average is 82, and I made a B in the class. So that's pretty good. So what is this? If I go from 0 to num grades, that is going to be 1 more than I need. And so I just got to subtract 1, and then it will go through the right number of times. Now, I think that if I made this num grades, that would work, but I would just be going through the loop 1 time after it was completely sorted. And you saw when we had it at minus 2, it didn't. The problem at minus 2 was that it didn't sort it all the way out. And so num grades minus 1 is the right way to do it. And so your average is 82, and you made a B in the class. Okay, extra bonus homework assignment. Now what I want you to do is I want you to find the high grade, and I want you to find the low grade. So again, you can pause the video. You can go in and sort through this. Write the code. Don't use a Python function, and then and then you can do it before you see me do it. All right. So 1, 2, 3, freeze. Okay, welcome back. I'll show you my solution for the high grade and the low grade. Okay, so what we are going to do is we've averaged the grades, and I think before I average the grade, I will find the high grade and the low grade. And what I do is I'll just say high grade. I'll set it somewhere. The high grade I'll set to 0, and then I'll set the low grade to 100. So I set the high grade to a low grade, so I'm guaranteeing that my high grade will lose. And my low grade I'm setting high, so I'm guaranteeing that will lose. And now we're going to go through and we're going to compare to high grade and low grade. So now I'm going to go for I in range. I'm going to go from 0 to num grades -1. Okay, and we do the -1 because we want to stop one before. No, we're going to go to num grades this time. Okay, 0 to num grades because we want to go through the whole list. We're not comparing to the next one. We're not comparing to the next one. We're just comparing to high grade and low grade. So we'll go through to num grades and one at a time. Now, what do we say? If grades of I is greater than high grade, what does that mean? That means that we have a new winner, and high grade becomes equal to grades of I. Okay, now if grades of I is less than low grade, what does that mean? That means we have a new loser. So low grade becomes equal to grades of I, like that. Okay. Now what we can do is we can print your high grade is space, and then that would be comma high grade, like that, and then print your low grade is comma low grade, like that. All right, now let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to give us a little more space there. So I'm going to have 5 grades, and I'm going to have 90, 91, 92, 90. I messed up. Let me run it again. Okay, I have, let's do 6 grades, okay? And I'm going to have 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, okay? And so I've sorted the grades 95, 94, 93, 92, 91, 90. They're in order. Your high grade is 95, your low grade is 90, and your average is 92.5. And congratulations, you have an A in the class. Okay, guys, why are we doing this? We're doing this because if we're going to move forward to controlling Arduino projects on the Uno R4, and we're going to be doing it from our desktop, and we're going to be connecting wirelessly, we have to be writing a program on the desktop, okay? And the easiest language that you can write programs for your desktop computer is Python. So we've spent a couple of lessons learning how to program in Python. And then next week, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to connect your Python program to your Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi project over Wi-Fi using UDP. And so next week is when the actual action begins. And I appreciate your patience as we've been trying to kind of learn some of the basics here. And I hope you guys were able to do the homeworks. Okay, guys, I hope you're enjoying taking this class as much as I am making it. As always, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to you guys who are standing with me on Patreon. It is your support that allows me to continue to make fresh, new quality content every single week. So really appreciate you guys. You can also help the channel by giving me a thumbs up on this video. Leave a comment down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And when you do, make sure you ring that bell so you'll get notification when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share this video with other people, because the world needs more people thinking like an engineer and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.